He said Brahman is absolute. So if Brahman is absolute, how can Brahman change? Therefore, when it looks that Brahman is changed, then it must be illusion. Then that's false. We see a rope, but it looks like a snake, and we think it's a snake, but it's false. It's a rope. This is the Vivartavad philosophy of Sankaracharya, which therefore says all material energy is illusion. And that's very nice when you sit in an armchair and are philosophizing, but when you try to cross the road, it's a little difficult because no one wants to become one with the road and the car. At least I don't particularly. Yeah? So then it makes sense to make distinctions, to somehow or other make distinctions and see the difference of things. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a child, said, yes, this Mayavad philosophy is not practical. So when a philosophy is not practical on the ground, then what do you do with this philosophy? It's very complicated. How superior then is the philosophy of Bhagavan, and which simply explains that the entire material world is a manifestation of the energy of Krishna and a reflection of the energy of the spiritual world, and it emanates from Krishna and it is under Krishna's control. Krishna is all-knowing. Janmadiyas hiyatum vyat itaratas chate svabiksarattini brahmaridaya adhikavya muyantit surya. And all this energy of Krishna is very powerful. It can put the living being into illusion. When we are saying that this material energy is the illusory energy, it doesn't mean that the material energy is illusion. It means that the material energy can put us into illusion, and into the illusion that we think that we are this material energy, that we are a product of the material energy, and that we are this material body. Whereas when this ignorance is lifted, then we can realize our eternal position as an eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And therefore, that there is no question of existence separate from the Supreme Lord. If we are a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, how can we exist separate from Him? That's artificial. We are not separate from Him. So the idea that simply to have a separate existence from God has one problem, is that we are fundamentally one with Him, fundamentally part of Him. And because we are fundamentally part of Him, therefore it is not possible to live a life without God consciousness. It is not possible. That is only illusion. One encounters God anyway, says Bhagavad Gita. I am the taste in water. We encounter Him everywhere. We encounter Him everywhere in this material energy. So, in this way, whether we want or not, we are always with Krishna. When the living being turns away from Krishna, then he feels, yes, now I'm independent from Him. I have done it. Now I am free. Now I can do anything I want. Aha, yes. Bollywood. And Hollywood and all the other hollow things. All those things that have so little meaning. Yes. But all that is simply distraction, because the truth of the matter is we're still relating to Krishna. Because it's still His energy. We're walking on the earth. And where does that come from? And what energy is that? And this earth stays in an orbit. And how does that happen? And the sun shines, and there are seasons, and how are they happening? And there is food, and we have a need for it. And how is all that happening? and so on and so on. All happening by divine arrangements. And when we rebel, then, and we are no longer respecting the Supreme Lord, and no longer recognizing that there is an order in the universe, and no longer recognizing that there is a system of governance set up by the Supreme Lord, then the material energy will show its ugly face. Then we'll have disasters, then we'll have all kinds of issues, from exploding volcanoes to huge snowstorms out of season, or we'll have drought. I was in Cape Town, and that was like the first city running out of water. And as soon as I arrived on the airport, went to the bathroom, and there was no water coming out of the tap. Now, as a devotee, that is like, that wasn't so nice. So I stood there, and one man says, "Take hand sanitizer." I go, "What?" And they use this hand sanitizer, like this, instead of soap, they have hand sanitizers, like, and they rub this stuff over your hands. God knows where that comes from. Probably dead animals, and with some perfume and some stuff, and then your hands are clean. So anyway, I walked all the way. I couldn't chant and didn't want to touch my beads. Walking like this until I finally got some water. Gosh, that was rough. And they gave a list. They gave a list in the news of other cities that would run out of water soon, and London was on the list. Now London, and it was the BBC was saying that London was going to run out of water. Now, I dare say London, it rains a lot, but somehow or other, no water in London, no water. No water in London. Yeah. My dear, that's getting close to home. So, if we consider all that, how about that? And where I'm from, in Holland, is the other way. Too much water. The water is coming up, Anyway, in the history of the Netherlands, there is this one famous sailor who said, "It's early enough to think about drowning when the water's up to your lips." So, yes, and I like that man, because at least he's not on the mental platform. We can be on the mental platform about everything in life, everything that can go wrong, and and that doesn't go wrong in the end, but that could have gone wrong, and possibly imagine it would have gone wrong, and then, in this way one can live a life. But that's another form of illusion. We can see the Gorkasodas Babaji was going blind. His eyesight was extremely bad. So he was sitting somewhere near a house in front of a veranda chanting, and this huge black snake came and just moved right past him, like, really, really close. And then some lady said, "Oh, Babaji almost died today. He got saved. A miracle, a miracle, a miracle." And he just said, "What's the problem? It's just peacefully chanting Hare Krishna, and you're making all this noise now." He said, "Oh, there was a big black snake." So what? Big black snake, nothing happens. He was not impressed at all, and didn't consider it worth even one word or thought. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are here in the temple of Sri Sri Prahlad Nrsimha. And then naturally we think about Prahlad Maharaj. And when you see Prahlad Maharaj, he is, of course, described at length in Bhagavatam, and the amazing thing is that Prahlad is totally calm, no matter what happens. Okay, Prahlad, we're going to boil you like a pakora right now, Prahlad. What do you think of that? He didn't worry about it. I mean, we would say, no, I have some savings, so I'll give you if you you try and think of a way to escape somehow at the last minute. Anything we will come up with to not be burned in the hot oil. But Prahlad was never thinking like that, because Prahlad was always thinking, I am perfectly protected at all times. At all times I'm perfectly protected by the Supreme Lord. So, in this verse, we're seeing a verse how the Bhagavatam, in particular, can bring about a revolution in a misdirected civilization. That's what we're seeing. So, in this way, we can appreciate that by distributing, especially the Bhagavatam, we can change the world. And then we can also understand that in order to distribute the Bhagavatam, we must absorb the Bhagavatam. It requires the Bhagavatam to distribute the Bhagavatam. Because without the Bhagavatam, how can one find the strength? Because one has to an extent, be like Prahlad. Nirapeksha, totally unaffected. If one doesn't have that mood of being unaffected, if one is affected by anything and everyone, then the first person who goes, excuse me, he growled at me. Oh no, that was terrible. Oh my God, I mean, how can people treat me like this? I mean, I need some therapy. Okay, after 3 hours of therapy, try again. So one has to have some sense of being unaffected and a sense of being protected. So we have to see that the Bhagavatam is the source of our strength. Therefore, if you want to distribute Bhagavatam, you have to read Bhagavatam and you have to live Bhagavatam. Otherwise, how can you distribute Bhagavatam? Not possible. How can anyone distribute books unless they read them and unless they really try to live by them? As much as they can. And then, in the course of preaching, in the cause of somehow or other bringing Krishna consciousness to others, yes, then we'll get further purified and we'll get more advanced. It's one thing to try and be like Prahlad and try to be fearless, and it's another thing to be fearless. It's okay to try. I mean, personally, if you want to throw me in a pit with snakes, I definitely will not be fearless. I will be extremely afraid. Oh, even that one is enough. I have experience. I used to, when I was married, I lived in Mayapur, and one day I'm inside our room, and my former wife, she comes home and she calls out, quick, come outside, there's a big black snake in front of the door. I said, why don't you go for a walk and come back in 15 minutes and tell me if it's still there? Why would I go outside, to fight with a big black snake? Is it let the snake? The snake came, it won't stay very long, it will move on, and it's told you go for a walk, come back, and tell me if it's gone. Because I don't really like them so much, I don't particularly. So what to do? But if it comes to the crunch, for the sake of Krishna, for devotional service, all right, then we'll face a snake. No problem, we'll do it. But there might be just a little bit of heartbeat in the background. So in this way, we cannot imitate. We cannot imitate Anusar and Anukar. Anusar means to imitate the personalities of the Bhagavatam. Oh yes, we read about a pure devotee and we begin to speak like a pure devotee, at least our interpretation of one. And, and we act like a perfect actor in a Shakespearean drama. But that will not do. It has to be real, and step by step. But taking shelter of the Bhagavatam is required. I was reading about Bali Maharaj. And Bali Maharaj is, of course, an interesting personality, because Bali Maharaj is identified in the Nectar of Devotion as the one who personifies Atma Nivedanam, one of the ninefold processes of devotional service mentioned in the Bhagavatam, and which means surrender of mind, body, and soul. So, all right, surrender is a difficult thing. So, Bali Maharaj is interesting. And now, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Bali Maharaj is discussed further. And it was saying when Bali Maharaj was surrendering everything to Vamana, and when Vamana was asking for the 3 steps of land, and even Sukracharya was saying, don't do it, it's Vishnu, and he was still ready to give, then Bali Maharaj is known to surrendered mind, body, and soul. But then it's explained by Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that was external. That was external. That internally still hadn't fully surrendered. And he had to go through more. And that then, therefore, Lord Vamana made that arrangement that Bali Maharaj was arrested and sort of strangled in a snake and kept hanging in that snake for a long time, and it's uncomfortable. Somehow or other the snakes are really present today. And he was hanging in that snake and couldn't breathe. And very uncomfortable, obviously. And it said, and that's what he got. He had just given everything he had, and what does he get in return? To be strangled by a snake. Now, some people would have gotten angry. And said like, now, look at this. I gave him everything I had, and look what he's doing to me now. I'm getting strangled in a snake. He is a snake. Yeah? Wouldn't it be easy to think like that? It's not a big step, right? It's like, and I'll get him back. Oh yes, wait till I get out of here, and I will take my 3 steps of land back, Yeah? I mean, that would be it's a recognizable reaction that one could have. So you can see that Bali Maharaj had to conquer these things, these more subtle attachments and had to give up the sense of I am the controller. And that he had to understand that Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. He is the Supreme Lord. He is the Supreme Controller. He is Parameshwar. He is Parameshwar. I am not Parameshwar. He is Parameshwar. I'm Choteshwar. I am a tiny little Iswara. Choti Choteshwar. That's me. Yes. I am just Choti Choteshwar. That means the small controller. And not Parameshwar, the Supreme Controller. So in this way, It is through Bhagavatam that we begin to understand. Therefore, when I speak about Bhagavatam, I would like to offer various ways that Bhagavatam works. So that on the heart of the demon, it works like a thunderbolt. And it's just like the heart of the materialistic person has become very hard, like a rock. It is there like a rock. Just like, no, this has nothing to do with me. People can die left, people can die right, but that's not my problem, you know. I mean, I watch it on TV and I munch on some cookies at the same time and have a cup of tea or coffee, right? And it doesn't faze me out at all these people being slaughtered there because it's on the other side of the world. And it's just very unfortunate, but that's the way it is, you know. Hard, insensitive, animals being killed, so much killing going on, and not caring. No compassion, no sense of sympathy for the suffering of others. Nothing. One who suffers himself sometimes can feel for others. I know what it's like. Oh yeah. Oh, toothache. Oh yeah, I know all about it. You know. Oh gosh. Oh yeah. Some sympathy. Yes. Somewhat suffering. But no sympathy, nothing. So, this is demon. Aghasura is described as a demon who is so cold-hearted that by mystic power he takes the form of a snake. And it said for him, living entities are like utensils. Something you use and dispose of after use. So, you know, as you say, chew them up and spit them out. Yeah. So, this is going on. So the heart of the demon is hard, and Bhagavatam works like a thunderbolt. It cracks that hard rock. So it just confronts them. And they may ignore it, they may deny it, they may say, we don't want this, no, this is rubbish, this is hukeme. Sometimes you meet people who say, you can't make any sense of these books. Can't understand a letter of it. Others, when they read the Bhagavatam, they just feel, this makes complete sense. This is exactly what I've always been looking for. In Sweden, Yogendra, a Prabhupada disciple who was distributing books, tells his story, and his story was that somehow or other